The Galactic Warlords were infamous for their brutal conquest of entire star systems. With their vast fleets and genetically engineered warriors, they had crushed civilizations across the galaxy, enslaving entire species. The HYF, the Warlords' most fearsome hunters, were considered invincible. They were apex predators, bred for war, equipped with technology far beyond anything the universe had seen. The Warlords set their sights on Earth's outer colonies, and Titan, Saturn's largest moon, had become their next target. The mining colony on Titan was a vital resource hub for humanity's expansion into the stars. However, it was also a prime target for the Warlords, who sought to control the valuable materials being extracted from the icy moon. But what the Galactic Warlords didn't know was that Titan's defense was not what they expected. Earth was not sending an army. It was sending Commander Elias Grant, a Navy SEAL with a reputation for taking on missions no one else would dare. The Warlords dispatched their most elite hunters to Titan. 5 of the HYF warriors, each standing over 7 feet tall, armed with weapons that could tear through metal and flesh alike. Their mission was simple: wipe out the colony's inhabitants, capture the resources, and make an example of humanity. As their ships entered Titan's atmosphere, the colony's communications network was immediately cut off. The mining colony's security systems were rendered useless, and chaos erupted. Panic spread through the workers as the alien invaders descended upon the city, armed with technology that made their attacks devastatingly efficient. For most of the colonists, it was a slaughter. But one person had a different plan. Commander Elias Grant had been stationed on Titan for over a year, overseeing the security of the mining operations. A former Navy SEAL, Elias was a legend among Earth's special forces. His missions on Earth's most dangerous battlefields had earned him the title of the Ghost, because he was as elusive as he was deadly. Grant had been expecting trouble. The Warlords were known to target valuable resources, and Titan was one of the richest mineral reserves in the solar system. When the first reports of HYF ships arriving on Titan came through, Grant immediately went into action. He knew the colony's only chance for survival was his experience. Earth's forces were spread thin across the galaxy, and there wasn't time to wait for reinforcements. The only option was to strike fast, use the environment to his advantage, and exploit the Warlords' overconfidence. Grant's plan was simple: turn the tide in the colony's favor through guerrilla tactics. He knew the HYF's strength lay in their superior technology and brute force, but they were not used to fighting in confined spaces, nor did they understand Titan's harsh and unpredictable environment. Grant moved like a shadow through the colony, using the dense, industrial environment of the mining rigs to stay hidden. He used explosives to create diversions, taking out key enemy targets one by one. The HYF, relying on their advanced armor and technology, were slow to adapt to the guerrilla warfare tactics Grant deployed. Their heavy weaponry made them powerful in the open, but vulnerable in the narrow, maze-like corridors of the colony's mining facilities. In one early confrontation, Grant ambushed Zal, the first HYF hunter, in the darkened depths of the mining shafts. The alien, towering and muscular, charged toward Grant with his plasma-bladed spear. But Grant was faster. He used the environment to his advantage, leading Zal into a narrow tunnel where the alien's weapons were less effective. In close quarters, Grant's hand-to-hand combat skills took over, and he struck hard, targeting weak spots in the alien's armor. Zal never saw it coming. With a combination of precise strikes and a homemade explosive trap, Grant brought the HYF to its knees, taking it out of the fight. But the HYF were relentless. The remaining hunters quickly adapted to the environment and began hunting Grant with a precision only they could achieve. They were bred for war, and they were not easily outsmarted. As the days passed, Grant faced one of the greatest challenges of his career. With limited supplies, and against enemies who had superior strength, armor, and weapons, he had to rely on his intelligence and his knowledge of combat strategy. He began to use the environment even more creatively, leading the hunters into dead ends, setting traps, and utilizing the mining equipment to create dangerous obstacles. The second HYF, Vrax, was the leader of the group. A brutal and cunning warrior, Vrax's reputation for hunting was unmatched across the galaxy. He began to realize that Grant was no ordinary human. Grant had killed 2 of his warriors and was beginning to turn the tide of the war. Vrax's determination to capture or kill him became a personal vendetta. But Grant, knowing how much was at stake, made his final stand. Grant lured Vrax and the remaining Halter hunters to a location deep in the heart of Titan's mining complex, a giant, abandoned facility filled with dangerous equipment and unstable tunnels. The area was filled with hidden explosives and traps. Grant had set the perfect stage for the final confrontation. The Halter arrived, confident in their victory. They had hunted countless species across the galaxy, and they assumed that this human would be no different. Vrax led the charge, his superior combat skills and strength giving him an edge. But Grant was ready. Using a combination of strategy, strength, and his unmatched ability to read the battlefield, he set off the traps. Explosions rocked the facility, and falling debris trapped 2 of the remaining Halter hunters. As Vrax charged at him, Grant fought back with all his might. A brutal hand-to-hand battle ensued, with Grant using his Navy SEAL training to disarm and outmaneuver Vrax at every turn. In a final, desperate move, Grant utilized the last of his explosives, luring Vrax into a corner and detonating it. The explosion rocked the entire facility, causing the walls to collapse around them. Vrax was finally defeated, and the remaining Halter were either killed or disabled. With the colony in ruins but the warlord threat finally neutralized, Commander Elias Grant stood victorious, but at great cost. The colony was saved, but the battle had been won only through sheer determination and sacrifice. The Galactic Warlords, watching the defeat of their most formidable hunters, were forced to reconsider their assumptions about humanity. Earth had sent a single soldier, a man trained to survive the impossible, and he had defeated their finest warriors. The message was clear. Humanity would not be so easily conquered. Back on Earth, Commander Elias Grant returned as a hero, his actions forever etched in the annals of military history. But to him, it wasn't about glory or fame. It was about protecting the people he had sworn to defend. The message had been sent loud and clear across the galaxy. When the warlords sent their hunters, Earth sent a Navy SEAL. This story showcases for centuries, the Galactic Warlords had been the supreme rulers of the cosmos. With advanced technology, genetically engineered soldiers, and brutal tactics, they had swept through countless civilizations, leaving devastation in their wake. Their most fearsome warriors, the Halter, were unmatched in battle. They had hunted the greatest species in the galaxy to extinction. Each time the warlords targeted a new planet, the outcome was inevitable: utter annihilation. When the warlords turned their attention to Titan, Saturn's largest moon, they were confident that the human mining colony there would fall just as easily. Titan was a critical outpost for Earth's mining operations in the outer solar system, producing valuable minerals used in space construction and technology. The warlords intended to seize it not just for its resources, but to make an example of humanity. They sent their deadliest hunters to wipe out the colony. But what the warlords did not expect was Commander Elias Grant, a Navy SEAL sent to oversee the mining colony's defense. A single human against the galaxy's most ruthless predators. They thought it was a foregone conclusion. They were wrong. The Halter arrived in Titan's atmosphere with terrifying precision. Their ships, built for warfare, descended silently onto the barren surface, unleashing their genetically enhanced warriors into the heart of the mining colony. Armed with plasma rifles, energy blades, and near-invulnerable armor, the Halter slaughtered any resistance in their path. The colony's defensive systems were no match for the aliens' superior technology. Humanity's fleet was stretched thin across the solar system, and reinforcements were light years away. The miners had little chance to survive on their own. Panic spread through the colony, and the few who tried to organize a resistance were quickly crushed under the Halter's brutal assault. But in the shadows of Titan's industrial rigs, one man moved with calculated precision. Commander Elias Grant, former Navy SEAL, had prepared for this moment. He knew the warlords wouldn't come without a fight. And now, that fight was about to begin. Grant had been stationed on Titan for 6 months before the invasion. As part of Earth's security detail, he had overseen the safety of the colony, conducting regular drills and preparing for any emergency. When the Halter ships arrived, Grant immediately enacted the contingency plans he designed for the worst-case scenario, a guerrilla war. He wasn't just any soldier. Grant was one of Earth's most skilled Special Forces operatives. He had faced enemies from Earth's most dangerous battlefields to the farthest corners of space. But facing the Halter was different. These were the galaxy's apex predators, engineered for war and bred to be unstoppable. Grant knew he couldn't defeat them with brute force, but he had something far more valuable: strategy. While the Halter were skilled in open combat, they were not accustomed to fighting in confined industrial environments like Titan's mining colony. This was Grant's advantage. The first strike was swift. Using the colony's vast underground mining tunnels, Grant set traps. He deployed explosives, ambushed the Halter hunters with sniper fire, and used the narrow corridors of the mining rigs to stay out of sight. The Halter had superior technology, but they were not prepared for a war of attrition. The human had outsmarted them, and now they were losing their grip. The Halter's leader, Vrax, was furious. Known across the galaxy as the deadliest of the Halter, Vrax had hunted and killed entire species. His reputation for hunting sentient beings was legendary, and he viewed the human commander as nothing more than another prey to be crushed. Vrax and his remaining hunters began to coordinate their efforts, using their advanced tracking systems to locate Grant. The hunt was on. In the depths of Titan's mining shafts, Grant faced off against Zal, the first of the Halter to find him. Zal was a hulking beast, standing over 8 feet tall, with claws that could tear through steel. Armed with a plasma spear, Zal tracked Grant into the narrow tunnels, confident that he would be easy prey. But Grant was already one step ahead. He had rigged the tunnels with explosives, creating a deadly maze. Zal's massive frame made it difficult for him to move freely, and the tunnels were not built for a creature of his size. As the Halter hunter charged forward, Grant led him into a trap, causing an explosion that sent the alien crashing to the ground. Wounded but alive, Zal roared in pain, but it was too late. Grant struck quickly, using his combat training to disable the hunter, rendering him unconscious. Zal would not be getting up anytime soon. Grant's first victory was a sign to the Halter that this wouldn't be an easy conquest. The hunter had fallen, and there were more to come. As the days passed, Grant continued to strike at the heart of the Halter's forces. The colony was in chaos, but Grant used every tool at his disposal to inflict damage on the alien invaders. He used mining equipment, detonated mining explosives, and sabotaged the colony's infrastructure to create distractions and traps. The Halter were relentless, but so was Grant. He continued to pick them off one by one, turning Titan's harsh environment into his weapon. His tactics were not just about strength, but survival, outsmarting the Halter at every turn. But Vrax was not a fool. He understood the danger. He could feel the respect the other hunters were beginning to have for Grant's skills. It was only a matter of time before the commander would face him. The inevitable confrontation came. Vrax, enraged and determined to end the human threat once and for all, led a final assault on Grant's position. This time, the hunter was not going to be tricked. The battle took place in the heart of Titan's largest mining facility, a massive, abandoned structure where the colony's most precious resources were processed. The two warriors faced each other among the towering structures of machinery and processing units. Vrax, armed with his plasma-bladed axe, towered over Grant. He was faster than any of the other hunters, and his strength was legendary. But Grant wasn't intimidated. He had fought stronger enemies, faced impossible odds, and survived. He had one goal: to protect the people of Titan and stop the warlords from claiming victory. The battle raged on, a brutal clash of strength, skill, and willpower. Grant used everything he had learned over the years: the environment, his training, and his ingenuity. Vrax was relentless, but Grant was determined. In a final, desperate move, Grant used an explosive charge to damage the structure they were fighting in, causing a partial collapse. The debris gave him the opening he needed. With a well-timed strike, he disarmed Vrax and brought the hunter to the ground, incapacitating him. With the last of the Halter fallen, the warlords were forced to abandon their invasion of Titan. Commander Elias Grant had proven that Earth's strength was not in numbers or technology, but in the resolve of individuals willing to fight for their survival. The warlords learned a hard lesson. Underestimating humanity was a fatal mistake. As Grant looked over the ruined mining colony, he knew that the victory came at a great cost. The warlords might return, but Earth would be ready. And as long as soldiers like Elias Grant were around, humanity would never back down. Part 3. Titan, Saturn's moon, was a stark and hostile environment. But beneath its icy surface, humanity had built a thriving mining colony. The outpost wasn't the largest in the solar system, but it was critical. Titanium, water ice, and various minerals extracted from Titan were used for spacefaring ships, lunar colonies, and everything in between. The colony was secure under the watch of Commander Elias Grant, a seasoned Navy SEAL. He had seen his fair share of interplanetary skirmishes, but nothing had prepared him for what was coming. The Galactic Warlords, a ruthless coalition of warlords from distant star systems, had been eyeing the resources on Titan for years. Now, they had set their sights on taking it. This wasn't a simple raid. They had sent their most fearsome hunters, genetically enhanced predators known as the Halter. These creatures were infamous across the galaxy for their brutal methods of conquest. Their mission was clear: wipe out the colony, capture the valuable resources, and show the galaxy the futility of resisting the warlords. The warlords thought that Titan would fall without a fight. They were gravely mistaken. Grant's first sign that something was wrong came when his surveillance systems picked up unidentified vessels entering Titan's orbit. These weren't standard civilian ships. These were heavily armed warships, equipped for planetary-scale invasions. It didn't take long for the alarms to blare across the colony, signaling the beginning of an attack. Grant immediately activated the colony's emergency protocols. But the Halter were far more advanced than anything humanity had encountered before. Their ships phased into Titan's atmosphere undetected, and by the time the colony's defenses powered up, the Halter were already on the ground, slaughtering miners and security personnel alike. Grant was prepared, though. As soon as he saw the first wave of attacks, he contacted Earth's command. He wasn't waiting for reinforcements. The closest fleet was weeks away, and that was time they didn't have. Titan's survival depended on him and him alone. Grant wasn't just a soldier. He was a strategist, a master of guerrilla warfare. The Halter were formidable, but they were also predictable. They relied on brute strength and advanced weaponry, but their tactics were blunt and their ability to adapt was limited in unfamiliar environments. Grant led a small group of survivors into Titan's frozen, cavernous mining tunnels. Here, the Halter's enormous frames and heavy armor would be their weakness. Grant and his team used the terrain to their advantage, setting traps, hacking into mining equipment to cause chaos, and ambushing Halter squads when they strayed too far from their main force. In the shadows of the mining rigs, the hunter became the hunted. Grant picked off the Halter one by one, using his knowledge of Titan's industrial terrain to disorient them. Their heavy armor, designed for combat on more hospitable planets, became a liability. Grant's team planted explosives that triggered avalanches of ice and debris, crushing one of the Halter's elite hunters in seconds. The humans had the advantage in these tight spaces, and every victory seemed to give them a renewed sense of hope. Despite their losses, the Halter weren't backing down. They adapted quickly, sending more troops to counter Grant's guerrilla tactics. Among the new wave was Zalgar, a brutal leader and skilled tracker who had defeated dozens of civilizations. Zalgar knew how to hunt humans, and Titan's frozen landscape offered him the perfect opportunity to track and kill. The first major confrontation between Grant and Zalgar happened in the middle of the mining colony's vast ice plains. Grant had lured the Halther into the open, knowing that their size and power would work against them in the open, where they couldn't use their high-tech weaponry effectively. Grant and Zalgar engaged in a fierce battle, the human using his superior speed and agility to avoid Zalgar's devastating plasma axes. The ground trembled as they fought, each blow shaking the icy plains. It was a battle of wits as much as it was of strength. Grant's combat training kept him a step ahead, and after a series of well-timed strikes, he incapacitated Zalgar, using a combination of hand-to-hand combat and environmental traps. Zalgar was defeated, but the battle had just begun. The warlords were relentless, and more hunters were on their way. In the wake of Zalgar's defeat, Grant realized that the colony's defenses were already on the verge of collapse. He had bought them some time, but the warlords were preparing for a final assault. There was no choice now. He had to finish this. He knew that the only way to secure Titan's survival was to destroy the Halther's flagship, which had deployed most of the hunters and was overseeing the invasion. If he could take it down, the warlords would be forced to retreat. Grant worked with the remaining survivors and a small group of engineers to rig up a plan. Titan's mining equipment was equipped with enough explosive material to cause massive damage. They would create a bomb powerful enough to obliterate the Halther flagship, but getting close enough to plant it would require all the courage and cunning he had left. Grant's final assault on the flagship was a daring and dangerous mission. He infiltrated the flagship, using his Navy SEAL training to bypass enemy guards and avoid detection. The Halther, having underestimated humanity's ability to fight back, were caught off guard. Grant planted the explosive in the ship's core systems and set the timer. As he made his escape, the flagship's alarms blared, but it was already too late. The bomb detonated, and the explosion ripped through the ship, sending shockwaves across Titan's surface. The warlord's fleet lost its command center, and the remaining Halther forces were thrown into disarray. With their leadership decimated, the warlord's forces had no choice but to retreat. The Halther, now leaderless and without coordination, were picked off by the remaining colony defenders. Grant stood among the ruins of Titan's mining colony, victorious but battered. The battle had been brutal, and countless lives were lost, but the colony had survived. Earth had sent a Navy SEAL, not a fleet, and against all odds, the hunters had been beaten. The Galactic Warlords were forced to withdraw, their most fearsome predators defeated by a single human soldier. Titan was saved, but the message to the galaxy was clear. Humanity was no longer a weak target for invasion. They had a warrior unlike any other, and anyone who underestimated Earth's will to survive would make the same mistake the warlords did. This new version of the story highlights Commander Elias Grant's cunning resourcefulness and sheer determination as he leads the defense of Titan against the overwhelming force of the Galactic Warlords. The narrative emphasizes the theme of underestimating humanity and how even in the face of impossible odds, a single soldier can make a difference.